feel like here, this is where this is all happening. You know, I just feel opening here, receiving. And the more natural I am, and I'll just say the word naked once, just because that's what I mean when I say natural, is completely being in the form that we came here in. You know, my shoes are my cracked, you know, soles of my feet that are so cracked and filled with dirt, I don't think I can actually clean them out anymore. But that's okay. And I'm receiving vital information through my feet from the earth. You know, the Native Americans used to say that those who wore shoes would go crazy. And maybe we do kind of have a world full of people that are so disconnected, you know. So what this does is brings you back to a state of utter and deep connection with yourself and with all that is, you know, just surrendering. When you're walking and you're gardening and you're completely vulnerable and natural and feeling the wind patterns and the sun shining on you and maybe ants crawl on you, get a few bites and you feel that and you pick something and eat it. And it just feels like things get to know you over time. And if you've read some of the Anastasia books, Vladimir, you know, they'll say that the plants will create exactly what you need. But you know, you need to be in a process where you're seeing them every day. They sense you, touching them, caressing them, just walking by, even brushing, you know, brushing past an herb bush or something. So, and the other very, very important work that I do here on the farm is to create earth from my body. In the form of, if you can call it human manure, or I'm recycling every bit of everything that comes forth from my body, every kind of liquid, you know, whether it's urine, menstruation, ovulation, and so forth. All of this is vital and wonderful food for the earth. So I do make a point of that, and because of that I have no septic tank here, there's no toilet. There's not a whole lot of things in terms of like shower, toilet. There's no stove or fridge or furniture. And I just, pardon?
No light bulbs.
No light bulbs. There's no lights, no washing machine.
Wow.
Doing everything by hand, which brings me back to the physical. Just not having furniture means that I need to drop my body all the way to the ground and then use my hips and muscles to get back up. And that's a lot more work and good work for the body than sitting halfway. It's like all this machinery we've brought in our life is taking vital and wonderful physical work away from us, which ultimately pulls vital living force away from it. So think about every single machine that you use and what vital force is it really convenient? Is it really so convenient? So when I wash my clothes and I have a bucket with a plunger and I'm really working it, you know, and those clothes are clean and dried in the same day, sun dried. If you've ever smelled what clothes taste like, sun dried, it's so wonderful. Good. It's a very special smell. It's you know, and using a very small amount of soap, a little bit of Dr. Bronner's, maybe a drop.
Good stuff.
Yeah, good stuff. Otherwise, I have no soap or shampoo. There's no toothpaste. There's nothing synthetic really here, because I feel like, you know, my body is one big mouth. My skin is receiving, just like this hole that we're a little too obsessed with, thinking we need to meet our needs through this little opening in our body. Are you kidding? We've got thousands and billions, so I won't put anything on my skin that I cannot also put in my mouth.
Yeah.
So if I can't eat it, and I don't eat shampoo, and toothpaste doesn't taste good, and even the soap, I won't use it. And so then what you find is when you're only using water and washing your hair in rainwater or bathing in the stream and so forth, you really find out how you're doing, because if you're detoxing and things, you're going to have an odor. You know, so I also tell people,
pardon? You look so good.
Oh.
Like your hair and your skin and your eyes are amazing.
Thank you.
So healthy.
Yeah, I think because I'm living in a healthy environment, and really paying attention to these kinds of things. What's touching my skin? It's not just about what I'm eating. I think like living foods, which what I really call is real food.
Yeah.
You know, even if you're steaming or doing things with food, just make sure that you're eating real food. You know, it's not about converting the world to raw foods. Living foods are wonderful. I think they're definitely, if it all comes down to sunlight, which is what I believe it all is, living foods are basically processed. It's the greatest processed food we can eat. It's processed sunlight that's been put into food. So it's definitely the place, and I think we don't need to go any further. I think it will meet all our needs, which I've been eating this way for over 7 years now.
Wow.
And mostly these days, mostly fruit, a few veggies, you know, greens. When you live green, when you touch green, when you sleep with this all night, you don't really need to eat so much green. I feel like if you're in a very artificial environment, it'd be very, highly recommended to eat greens, and also greens oxygenate our bodies. But if you're getting this kind of oxygen all day long, so I'm more driven towards the fruit, and I think the reason so is the water content in the fruit. I don't drink water. I haven't for a few years now, and I actually don't consider it necessarily a safe, way of hydrating our bodies at this point. I think water, what is very important, what it does, it dilutes. When we're thirsty, we actually need to dilute something in our body. So we're asking for something. Too much sugar, too much salt. But if you've eliminated all of those things in condiments and are eating fruits and maybe vegetables, some vegetables and so forth, what I'm really going for is what I call like the divine nectar, the essence of the food, which I feel is in the liquid. So I'm mostly chewing and spitting what I eat. Even fruit, pineapple, orange, watermelon, things like that. Banana, you can't really spit out. Even though banana is a very high water content.
Oh, I never knew
Too
that.
good to spit out.
Yeah, it's too yummy. Banana is really the staple for me here, and I'm growing it right here on the farm. I watch these trees grow and produce, and there with the harvesting and the whole process. So bananas, in the tropics, you can almost live off bananas. I did actually stop eating avocado a couple of months ago, so I'm on a very, very low fat. I felt I was having some discomfort because a lot of the avocados, there are local varieties that are full of water, but there's this Hass, which is mostly what you see and all that you get. It's a hybridized avocado, very, very high in oil and fat, grown at higher altitudes. Now, we're in a place where we're not at those altitudes, and our blood is thinned by being in this kind of climate, and I think those oils and fats can wreak havoc on our system. It's just too heavy. And because I like to eat mono meals, which is something else I kept observing here in nature too, the animals and plants, right? We know there's no food combining in nature. Yeah, and I always ask people, like, what's the one rule of food combining? Does anyone know what that is? Just if you had to break it down to one rule for food combining,
one thing.
what might that be?
Don't combine.
There you go.
Yeah, I was going to say that, and I thought, no, that's not it.
The one rule is not to.
Yeah.
But we do. But if you really observe nature, no other being is. So when you eat mono meals, you really find out if those things are working for you. So when I'm eating avocado by itself, which is what I was doing, just taking an avocado and okay, I'm not adding anything, it was just way too much on the system. And so I decided to, and my interest always, and I think for all of us, is to be free of suffering. I mean, ultimately, isn't it why a lot of us were driven to living foods in the first place?
Yeah.
Weren't we suffering in some way? And we were ready to do maybe anything at that point to get relief. And that's what happened for me in New York City when I was playing these music gigs. I was a trumpet player, and I was playing at restaurants, and we'd get a dinner, halfway through, and it was this typical spaghetti, to put the bread out. And I started, when I had to go back and play after the meal, I started noticing I was using my diaphragm as a trumpet player, very aware of what's happening, and how much discomfort I had after eating these meals. And so one day I said, okay, no more pasta, no more bread, and started eliminating. I found an article, I think, on raw food. Sorry about yikes. Let me turn it off. It'll,
Do you want to get it? Because I can stop this if you want to get it. It's
well, just
important.
so it doesn't. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so I was talking about mono meals and eating. Yeah. So.
Contemplating diaphragm.
Right. When I was
After your
okay.
spaghetti dinner.
Yeah. When I was on the gigs. So, and I found an article on raw foods. I found out about a support group in New York City. Started going to that, and very quickly I just needed to hear that it was okay. That it's okay to eat this way. That it's okay to have 6 oranges in a meal. That's okay. Like I went to that first meeting, I remember just asking, please, can we just go around, tell me what do you eat? How do you do this? Like what's a typical day? And within a week I went 100% raw.
Wow.
And I know everyone's journey is different with that. Sometimes it can take years.
Yeah.
But this truth spoke to me so deeply, and that catapulted me onto an incredibly profound transformation. This happened in the middle of New York City, where I stopped using corrective vision. I started sun gazing. I started walking barefoot through the parks, New York City parks. I started foraging. I was eating living food. I started paying attention to the sun cycles and the moon cycles. All of a sudden, I was, wanting to know when things came into harvest. I was only eating real things. I started reading spiritual books like crazy, maxing out my library card. And this went on and on for months. I was just every minute that I didn't need to teach music or play a gig or do something related to work, I was out in the parks. I was outside. I was under the open sky. For the first time in my life, I started laying down on my back on the grass.